On October 11th, 1962, after 44 months of preparation, the Second Vatican Council was inaugurated. The council you so wanted. Between two aisles of impassioned spectators, you were carried on your gestatorial chair across the square of St. Peter's. The event that would illuminate the world in search of spiritual perfection was witnessed and followed on numerous TV screens and radio newscasts. Naturally, the Curia was critical in your regard, above all on the debate of Latin liturgy, a request brought up by missionary bishops who sought permission to say Mass in the language of each land, allowing the faithful to better comprehend the word of Christ. Your address reiterated that ecumenical councils are the solemn celebration of the union of Christ with that of his church. Thus, men, families, and nations shall direct their souls towards celestial things.
Venerabilis fratres, gaudet. Mater Ecclesia, quod singulari divine providentiae munere, optatissimus.
Look how beautiful my Pope is on television.
Mama, our friend the Pope is on TV.
He heard you. Hello.
Festoritur e colitur hic ad beati Petri sepulcrum concilium ecumenicum Vaticanum secundum solemniter initium.
That night, the faithful of Rome flocked to St. Peter's Square, celebrating the opening of your council. You hadn't prepared a talk of any kind, and yet your impromptu words shall always remain with us.
My dear children, I hear your voices. Mine is just a single voice, but it carries with it the voice of the whole world. And tonight, here, the entire world is represented, and it looks as if even the moon has rushed out to see this wonderful sight. Hear me as a brother speaking to you, who has become your father, through the will of the Lord. And together, we form the brotherhood through the grace of God.
It's magnificent.
So let us continue to love each other.
And yet it's so simple.
And let us gather what unites us.
You know, we started together at the seminary.
And put aside,
at a seminary?
if there are,
Yes.
those things that get in our way. When you go home to your children tonight, give them a gentle caress and say, this caress is from the Pope. There'll be a tear to dry, so have a kind word. The Pope is with you in all these moments of sadness, and together
I used to be a priest, but now
we come alive. We sing, sigh,
I was excommunicated because of my
cry,
ideas.
but always with our faith in Christ, who helps us and listens to us.
In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen.
It's high time, fathers, that the faithful who live far from Rome are able to celebrate the Mass in the language that they speak, so that they might finally understand it. And for elements of their own culture to be included into the Mass.
What on earth are you asking for? Masses said in Bantu, with masked bishops, swaying to the rhythm of drum beats?
Yes, in Bantu, in Swahili, in Italian and in French, in all of the thousands of languages the Catholics of the world speak.
Thank you.
All but Latin, which none of them understand.
The Church has always carried out its mission throughout the world for centuries,
without ever altering the canon of the Mass.
But times are changing. The world is moving forward. And we notice with disappointment and dismay that Rome doesn't realize this.
Be seated. The Pope has promised not to interfere with the work of the Council or of its commissions. But I believe there are certain aspects of liturgical issues, such as which language to use for Mass, that the Pope has to express an opinion.
The sacred Mass celebrated in primitive lingos, can you imagine? He's turned our role in the Curia to that of puppets, and yet makes a monument of himself. Here, you see? He's also on the cover of your Time magazine, and it never happened before.
It only shows that His Holiness is a great communicator. He knows the art of touching people's hearts, and uses all the tools available today. Newspapers, radio, television.
Then let's also use them. We need to find a way to reduce the importance of his public image.
His present recognition is spotless, impossible to attack.
But what about his past? You recall how insufferable the northern prelates were towards us of the Roman Curia. The modernists. Radini Tedeschi was his bishop with progressive tendencies. You know Angelo better than any of us. Thus you know where to look.
You are asking me to betray him?
No, I'm asking for an act of loyalty towards the Church. Which is the Church you believe in.
I haven't been able to contact him. You must see him from time to time. Could you give him a letter? There's a return address on the envelope. Would you do that for me? Please, give him this letter.
Yes? Good evening. I have an appointment with His Eminence.
Yes, he's expecting you, sir.
Are you always so punctual?
Your Eminence?
I thank you for coming. Newsmen of your standing must be loath to accepting spur-of-the-moment requests.
Cardinals are an exception.
If you recall, I mentioned an incriminating letter. Well, this is the proof. It's from an old acquaintance. An excommunicated priest whose behavior cannot be considered representative of the Church, Nicola Catania. He studied with His Holiness at the seminary. I can't give you the letter, but you have the gist of it.